Welcome to Red-Handed Crimes channel. Don't forget to subscribe. The city of Atlanta buzzed with life that fateful night in 1999. Streetlights flickered, cars honked in the distance, and the rhythmic bass of hip-hop pulsed through the urban jungle. But for Darnell Carter, a 22-year-old aspiring musician, the night would mark the beginning of a nightmare that would last 2 decades. Darnell had just finished a late shift at a local diner, dreaming of the day his music would lift him out of his struggling neighborhood. As he walked toward his apartment, he saw flashing blue and red lights ahead. A liquor store had been robbed, and the owner lay bleeding behind the counter. Witnesses claimed the suspect was a young black man wearing a hoodie. Darnell, fitting the vague description, became an easy target. Before he could process what was happening, police cars screeched to a stop beside him. Officers jumped out, guns drawn. "Hands up! Get on the ground," they shouted. Confused and terrified, Darnell complied. The next thing he knew, his face was pressed against the pavement, cold steel cuffs clicking around his wrists. In the days that followed, Darnell found himself trapped in a whirlwind of accusations. The prosecution painted him as a violent criminal. The store's grainy surveillance footage showed a man in a hoodie, but the image was too blurry to confirm an identity. The single eyewitness, a nervous young woman, hesitated at first but ultimately pointed to Darnell in a police lineup. Darnell's public defender, Michael Harris, barely glanced at his case file. The overworked lawyer advised him to take a plea deal, 20 years in exchange for avoiding life in prison. But Darnell refused. He was innocent. At trial, the jury was shown evidence that felt more circumstantial than definitive. The police had found a hoodie in Darnell's apartment similar to the one in the footage. A shaky witness claimed she saw him running near the store. The store owner, still recovering, couldn't confirm his identity but assumed the police had the right man. Despite his alibi, his coworker confirmed he had been at the diner. The jury was swayed by emotion. The verdict came swiftly: guilty. Darnell's mother, Renee Carter, collapsed in tears. His little sister, Jasmine, only 12 at the time, clutched her mother's hand, too shocked to cry. Darnell's world shattered as the judge sentenced him to 25 years behind bars. Prison was a brutal, unforgiving place. Darnell quickly learned that survival depended on strength, both physical and mental. He kept his head down, avoided trouble, and found solace in books and music. He wrote songs about injustice, about the system that failed him. Years passed. His family visited when they could, but life outside moved on without him. His sister grew up, his mother aged, and friends slowly disappeared. One day, while in the prison library, he met Elliot Parker, a law student interning with a prison justice program. Something about Darnell's case nagged at Elliot. He dug into court documents, police reports, and witness statements. What he found shook him to his core. The key eyewitness had been pressured by police. The lineup had been highly suggestive. And most damning, DNA evidence found at the crime scene had never been tested. Elliot contacted the Innocence Project, a legal nonprofit specializing in wrongful convictions. With their help, Darnell's case was reopened. The new investigation uncovered major flaws. The DNA on the store counter did not match Darnell. The eyewitness recanted her statement, admitting police pressure. The store owner, now in better health, testified that he had never identified Darnell. But the legal system was slow to admit mistakes. Appeals were denied. Prosecutors resisted reopening the case. Darnell's hope wavered, but his family and legal team never gave up. In 2019, after 20 years of wrongful imprisonment, a new judge finally reviewed the overwhelming evidence. The courtroom was packed. Darnell, now 42, sat in his prison uniform, hands clenched together. His mother, frail but determined, sat beside Jasmine, who had become a law student, inspired by her brother's ordeal. The judge sighed as he read the case files. In the interest of justice, the conviction of Darnell Carter is overturned. Tears streamed down faces across the courtroom. Darnell broke down as his mother embraced him. Freedom was surreal. The world had changed: smartphones, social media, a new president. But one thing remained: Darnell's will to fight for others like him. He became an advocate for prison reform, using his story to shed light on systemic failures. Despite years stolen from him, he refused to be defined by injustice. He was a survivor. And he vowed never to stop seeking justice for those still trapped behind bars for crimes they never committed. How many more Darnells are still waiting for justice? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.